Welcome to Planning for ITIL and the Intelligent Customer Framework, Part 3. In Part 1 and 2, we learned that using common processes in a governance structure would be the most effective way to manage a multiple supplier environment. Now that we have covered the type of governance structure we need and how to develop ITIL, let's now look at the measurement and benefits we can achieve. How do we measure our efforts and success? Assuming we have detailed ITIL process documents and process ownership, each area of the process will be clear what is not being done, i.e. areas that are not best practice at the moment. These are areas that we can actually improve upon and move into our CSIP, our Continual Service Improvement Programme. Above all, we have to ensure that the Continual Service Improvement Programmes are active and producing output for the higher boards, such as the Service Management Integration Group. We need to be able to communicate our results and our success. Not enough organisations actually communicate the results of a Continual Service Improvement Programme. And some of the very core statistics should be improved upon, such as the number of first-line calls are reduced. The number of first-time fixes actually decreases in time, thus elating the user base. We have OLAs working between the support teams, which again should be reducing the timescale that end users are having to wait. We may have a self-help mechanism working for business users, or we may be conducting simpler, easy-to-complete surveys. All of these areas should be communicated. So, we need to develop a communication program, and we need to keep that constant, at least monthly, so that people can see, how ITIL is progressing. The end users don't necessarily know what ITIL is, but tell them that you're implementing a framework which is de facto global standard. You need to keep the teams connected, make sure that the processes are not drifting apart again. The process improvement forums should make sure that that is happening. Should make sure that you are all still connected. And again, the continual service improvement will be actually feeding output of what is being suggested for improvement up to the senior boards for their consideration and approval. So, there are lots of formal ways to measure process efficiency, as I've discussed. CMM, the capability maturity model, is one that stands out amongst others. It is relatively easy to use as well. I'll be discussing that in a moment. KPIs will show the evidence of improvement as well. So the reporting structures need to be thought through with the tooling, the enterprise tooling. Of course, the new governance structure, incorporating a new continuous service improvement, and also the cooperation from suppliers, will be generating results. General comments through surveys can be misleading, so you need to be a little bit careful with the surveys. But I would suggest that if you look at some immediate quick wins, first of all, once you start establishing a continuous service improvement program, you may end up with as many as 200 service improvements that you wish to implement. Reprioritize all of those to try and get some quick wins that are, showing immediate impact. ISO 20000, of course, there are elements of that. You don't need to actually obtain or achieve ISO 20000 yourselves, and it can be quite an expensive standard to actually adhere to and maintain. But certainly, if you can get hold of the criteria for achieving ISO 20000 and start reading those, you'll be able to see where some of your process areas are possibly weak. So moving on to the capability maturity model, this uses specific process spreadsheets. Good service management organisations will be able to help you with CMM, but I would suggest that process owners should definitely be educated with understanding what the capability maturity assessments include for their process areas. It's a range of questions for each process, probably in the range of 32 to 40 questions, which quite simply highlight very, very quickly which of these maturity areas your particular company is currently. you're aiming for control level 3. You know, if I just read that to you now, describes a formalized process in which the process objective, activities, inputs and outputs have been defined. The output is formalized, consistent and repeatable. There is one common process across the organization. This process is documented, understood and used by all staff. In my experience of working in organizations, once you have got to control level 3, it is reasonably easy to go from control level 3 to integration level 4. So you are definitely aiming, to become control level 3. Again, 9 times out of 10 organizations will fall into the 0 and 1 area, in that they may have possibly started, to look at creating processes. None of them are integrated, they're all in silo management, or you may not have any process documentation at all. In some sites I've gone into, there have been as many as 4 change management processes. Well, which one is current? Which one are you currently using? There's ambiguity. It's not commonly understood. It's areas like that you really need to, start pulling all of these process areas, process documents together, putting them into a controlled library, and making sure that everyone is educated to understand what their role is within that process. And you'll very quickly get to control level 3. So let's look at some of the benefits then of ITIL. As we've earlier mentioned, it's not a quick fix. It requires commitment, through executive support. And it needs this constant rolling momentum. Through dedicated process owners and executive support, senior management teams using a formal governance team, which operates the Continual Service Improvement Forum. It could be weekly, fortnightly. This provides the correct vision for all improvements, becoming clear. Nothing gets to hide under the carpets. You're actually having meaningful meetings with suppliers, with their own process owner representatives. The teams start to appreciate how working together becomes more powerful and enjoyable to achieve optimized services for the end user. ITIL supports all levels of a business. It requires relationship building, cooperation with business and suppliers, support teams, managers, technicians. It is a long journey. But we'll take a look at 3 different levels of an organisation to see how the benefits can be realised or witnessed, for a strategic level, which will be your CIOs and your CTOs and your heads of technologies, or your tactical layers, which this is where the decisions are implemented, policies become reality. The roles for this level would include process owners, team leaders, support teams, or operational. This level is, quite frankly, where decisions become supported and most of the day-to-day activities get done. Performance is reported against at this level. The roles for this level would include all the support teams, your process analysts, your change analysts, etc., and your process owners, because your process owners will be flicking between the operational and tactical layers in order to actually compile the continual service improvement data that they need. Each particular layer, though, will have accountability and ownership, process efficiency, support team cooperation, and business relationships and partnerships. All of these will be agreed up front, particularly with suppliers, and they will sign up to that. So, let's look at some of these benefits of ITIL. What I've done, I've grouped a lot of the process areas into either a strategic column, which is your heads, your CIOs, your CTOs, your CEOs, your heads of technologies, and your tactical, which is your process owners and your support teams, or operational, which is your support teams extended. So it doesn't matter which process you look at, you will see that there is a benefit to each of those tactical layers of your business. So let's look at incident management, for example. For a strategic level, the impact of incidents on business critical systems will reduce and will be identified. On the tactical layer, the same, incident management, you will have the ability to support new systems and applications. So, in effect, you have an increased return of investment. On the operational support teams, you have the ability to resolve incidents in a timely and accurate manner. And this will make sure that you decrease your total cost of ownership. So each one of these has actually been put together with the view of will it increase your return of investment, and will it decrease your total cost of ownership? So it's now up to you to look through these particular slide areas rather than me reading them out to you. I'll give you a moment to actually look through some of these. On to the next one. We have release management, service level management, and capacity management. So let's take capacity management. This is an area that is quite often overlooked and can be the most powerful and influential process of all of them. Capacity management and the strategic layer, they will have the knowledge of current capacity so that data is available for the impact and costs of potential new business systems. In the tactical area, there is sufficient capacity available to implement new business systems, therefore an increase in return of investment. Operational, that there will be sufficient capacity to meet the future demands of current systems, a decrease in total cost of ownership. Again, if you look at each one of these, very neatly mapped into either a strategic level, tactical or operational. You have IT service continuity, configuration management and availability management here. I'll give you a moment to look through those. Configuration management will take quite a long time to develop for sites that haven't got knowledge of their CMDBs. There's never been a better time to start. On the strategic level, IT has full control over its assets. Very, very powerful. But above all, the database is accurate. You need that to interface to all other ITIL processes. So this next slide is a recap of a slide we showed you in an earlier part. This actually shows you the communication, bilateral communication that's going on up and down and across to each of the groups. You have the service management integration group at the strategic top layer. The strategic top layer could include governance legislation, for example, that's coming to the ICT board or the IT board. And they themselves will feed that down to the technical design authorities, PMO, the project management office, for the development of particular projects. And of course you'll have your process improvement forum. It's up to you as an individual site as to where you put that process improvement forum. But what I'm saying is that to develop the intelligent customer role, you definitely need to have a centralized process improvement forum. You could call it performance improvement. It doesn't matter about the name, it's just the exact content of why you need it, feeding up and down through the various layers of the business. So that concludes part 1, part 2 and part 3. I hope it's been of value to you and I hope you found it of interest. But if we can be of further assistance, do not hesitate to contact www.PremaGroup.com. Thank you for listening.